What's up, everybody, and welcome back to On the Warpath. Sanchez 405 with you. If you're new, make sure you click that subscribe button, hit the bell so you get notifications anytime there's new content posted. As always, like, comment, share this video out because y'all know what we do here. We talk about the Washington Commanders, and it's a Warpath Wednesday. That means we're going to get ready to preview our upcoming game against the Dallas Cowboys. We're going to look back against the Philadelphia Eagles, but we've got William here once again, and William, we dive right into it. 2 consecutive losses, first time this season, following Philadelphia 26-18 in a game that the score was not indicative of how really, I would say in a way, was lopsided, especially going into that second half. I think Philadelphia scored on its final 5 drives, and I had the notes here too for you. Those final 5 drives were 87 yards, 74 yards, 76, 67, and a one-play 46-yard drive by Saquon Barkley, and he had a day for the Philadelphia Eagles, and continues to make Washington look like a Division III college squad going up against an NFL team.
Yeah, Corey, I said it last week that I didn't like meeting like this, and I sure hope we're not making a habit of it with these back-to-back losses. And you're 100% right. I think that the scoreline was not indicative of the football game that we all watched on Thursday night. This was a highly anticipated game. Of course, you've got the Eagles, who at that point were a half game, up on the Commanders in the division. It was a Thursday night showdown. You had a packed stadium up in Philadelphia with, like we mentioned, a good amount of Commanders fans making their showing. And look, it felt like the team just did not come to play. They started slow. They finished even slower. Obviously, we've got a lot to get into with the effect of that short week on them. And you could definitely see how banged up this team seemed to be, and like they weren't firing on all cylinders. And as I mentioned, it was evident from those first plays. But this matchup, and I said it at the end of last week's stream, this is a matchup that only made me more excited for when these two teams meet in December. And I think that is potentially going to be, depending on how the rest of the Commanders season goes, one of the best games of the season. I think it is going to be a very different game than we saw on Thursday night. But look, what they did last week was just flat out not good enough. It was not good enough to win the football game. It's not good enough to really win any football game. And they let the Eagles' weapons take advantage of them.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you look at it too, this was probably, if you look at the premium of an opponent, I talk about what we like and what we didn't like. The premium of opponent, and for 3.5 quarters, your defense put together its best effort. Got a little help from Jake Elliott, but they literally put together. Fowler was playing. Jeremy Chin played another heck of a game. Frankie Louvu was out there, blew up that trick play that they were trying to run against us, and it just seemed like the defense was giving the offense so many opportunities. I think I'm looking at it right here. This is where some of those drives started at early on. Washington had the ball at their 42. They scored a touchdown on that. They had a drive that started at their 41 that was a 3-and-out a couple plays later. Those 2 missed field goals, they could do nothing really with them from Jake Elliott. And it just seems like every time the defense gave you something, the offense just kind of had the thumbs up their bum and couldn't execute. It starts with number 5, right? It starts with number 5, and it starts with the offense coordinator, Cliff Kingsbury. They look totally out of sync. They didn't get Terry McLaurin involved, right? And it just, it was a disappointing show. And let's not take anything away from Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. 2 very physical teams, 2 well-coached teams, but yet and still, I don't care if you're on a short week, you knew what you were expecting. You got to come out here and play a little bit better than that.
Absolutely. And I do want to start on the defense with you because I think that it, like you said, was a great showing through 3 quarters. This defense for how poorly the offense played stepped up in a very big way. And it is a continuation of what Joe Witt, and we keep hearkening back to it, what he said at the beginning of the season, that this might not be a great group, but it is a group that can get the job done. And if they trust in the process and trust in what he's putting together, it will develop across the year. And we are seeing that development in real time, week in and week out. And I do think that that game against Pittsburgh and the game against Philly through three quarters was what this defense can be. And it is at that average mark that we have asked for them to be at since the beginning of the season. We have not asked too much of this defense. We have not put overt expectations on them, but we have asked them to be run of the mill average. And what they have shown in the past 2 weeks is that they have the ability to do that. The guy that continuously is sticking out to me all over the field is Jeremy Chin. He has put together two back-to-back performances, getting put up against incredibly talented pass catchers, and he's locked them down. He has done a phenomenal, phenomenal job. He has really emerged as a play leader in this group, I think. I think that, we'll get into this, but Marshawn Lattimore, his return, or I guess initiation into this team, will have an effect on him and lightening his burden. But look, the defense did a great job through the first half. They were not allowing Saquon, to move the chains in the way that he would have liked. The Eagles offense did not, really have an impact through the first quarter at all. Weren't able to get, not even just scoring. Obviously, they didn't allow any points in the first quarter, only 3 in the second. But it wasn't even just the score line that showed it. You could feel it on the field that Hurts looked dismayed. The offense was shaken by how well this defense was playing and how they showed up in good form, ready to rip from the first snap of the Eagles offense on Thursday night.
Yeah. And and you mentioned it too. I'm just sitting there the whole time watching the game, and I'm like, this can't hold up. This just can't hold up. Like I was sitting there. I wanted to live in like a denial reality, and you do owe me apologies because I told you to buckle up for that. I did say the Eagles were going to win, but you know what?
Yeah, your score ended up being a lot closer than mine.
Yeah. I think I was within a couple of points.
No,
too.
you were. You were right in there within a couple of points. Right there.
I'm like, I'm not celebrating. I'm not celebrating that. I'm just saying, this is that was the inkling I felt the whole time. But yeah, I was just blown away by that defense and that performance. Though it like the way that you mentioned Hurts. He went to the blue tent, and also, can we give credit to Jahan Dotson? You're trash here. You're still trash in Philadelphia.
Yep. And it was when they targeted him, when they hit him on that first route, everybody in the bar was like, are they really going to tee him up? Are they really going to tee him up for a revenge game? And then just down in and down out after that, it's drop, not even near the ball. Wow. What a testament to Adam Peters, because that guy, he is not a good football player.
No. And I just, we love the defense, the testament to it. Let's switch back over to the offense. I do have some questions I want to ask you and kind of pick your brains on. The common theme this week has been, it was Jaden Daniels injured, and or did he play a physical team? I don't think he was injured. I think
no.
2 things here. Injured and hurt are 2 different things.
Yeah.
Injured, I think you can't go. Hurt, you still reeling from your injury and everything. I'm going to give you my answer before after I let you answer. What were your thoughts on that that narrative that was being released this week?
Well, first of all, I think that the biggest concern for this team right now with regard to the offense is that from the beginning of the season, from their first wins, their first successful performances, we were saying that this was going to be a Commanders team that relied on their offense to help out their defense. And the reason why they're not winning games is because right now the defense is doing their best work to bail out Jaden Daniels and this offense, because it was just a nothing burger. They couldn't get anything going. It felt disjointed. It felt like the rhythm that we had seen from Jaden and Cliff and the chemistry that they had been developing was off. And on the note of Jaden's injury, I think that a lot of the fans are maybe looking for a cop out and looking to cope with the reality that the Commanders do have a rookie quarterback, a star as he may be, but a rookie quarterback. And was he going to be able to keep up the 98 passer rating that he had through the first couple of games? No. Was he going to, continue to be on pace for some obscene, multi-hundred rushing yard record breaking? No. This is a guy that is acclimating to the NFL. And I say all that because while I don't think that it is fair or right to be attributing, his performance to this injury, I think that there's a really interesting kind of case study that you could do of the pre-injury Jaden Daniels and the post-injury Jaden Daniels. Because while I don't think it's the injury itself that is necessarily hurting him, I think that it has changed his psychology as an NFL quarterback, where in those first games, he seemed almost invincible. He was untouchable. He was running tenaciously, almost too tenaciously, where everybody was, gritting their teeth, waiting for him to get his head taken off. And he wasn't taking sacks. He didn't have to necessarily get rid of the football because he would just be able to leg his way out of a sticky situation. And since that rib injury, he seemed more cautious to run with his legs. He seems to be, holding onto the ball just frankly too long, where he's looking for a way out with his legs that probably isn't there. And watching the game, it's easy to just tell him, get rid of the ball, throw it away. He's not doing that. And then in general, he doesn't seem as sharp. He seems timid. He's behind on throws. He's late on throws, which I attribute to him not throwing with the same confidence that he maybe had in his quote unquote invincible era. So while I do think that there's this peddling of an injured narrative by the media and by fans, because look, Chris Long would say it all the time while I was working for his show, the Greenlight Podcast. By week 10 games into the NFL season, you're not healthy. Nobody on that field is healthy. Every single guy is banged up and bruised. So I think that your distinction of hurt and injured is important.
Yeah.
And I think that the narrative that he is hurt is not a true one and not fair, but it is certainly having what I see as a psychological impact on his game in a very, very big way when he's trying to throw the ball, trying to run the ball, and just his general decision-making in the pocket.
Yeah, that's I like how you looked at it, how you broke that down, especially talking about the psychology of it all. And I'm in the field of, I think both things can be true at the same time. I think, yeah, maybe he's still feeling the remnants of the injury, but that's not an excuse to how poor he played on Thursday. This was you got to think, this was a team that's 2 years removed from a Super Bowl in Philadelphia. They still got that. They still got that runner-up in the MVP award in Jalen Hurts on the offense side of the ball. They still got some of those key pieces on there. They got some good cornerbacks. Slay's still on that team. They brought back Chauncey Gardner-Johnson in the secondary, and then Mitchell, who locked up Terry McLaurin, or was not schemed against. Yeah, more or less. They didn't scheme Terry up in there. That's where I'm going to.
But I would push back. I wouldn't necessarily go as far. Like, I have difficulty framing this game, particularly in kind of the span of what we've seen from him, because can you really say that he played poorly? I mean, you're looking at the numbers, 22 for 32, 191 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. It wasn't the Jaden Daniels Superman.
Right.
But on the spectrum of NFL performances, can you say he played poorly? Or does this bring us to the other facet of the offense where Jaden Daniels wasn't able to find a wide receiver until basically the second half?
See, I feel like the numbers in the eye test would be completely different on that. You see,
They are. 100%.
It's just like from from what I saw a guy who just looked like something was missing there. Now, if I saw that on paper, oh, I'd be like, oh, well, he didn't have a bad game. So I see where you're coming from. But to me, it's just like, I think the moment and who you're playing against and who didn't get involved. So I went and looked at the next gen stats, right? I think he had about 8 passes completed or thrown behind the line of scrimmage, at or behind the line of scrimmage. There's a
Yeah.
cluster. There's like a nest on that next gen stat where he has about 6 passes right there within the 5 yard mark of the line of scrimmage. So to your point, going back to what you said, and I'm not going to tiptoe around. I'm just going to say, is the boldness gone? Is that daring? Is the boldness gone? I'm not saying the ability's not there, but that mentality that you talked about, that boldness, like when he was running against Carolina and subsequently got hurt on that play, is the boldness gone, or is it missing a little bit, or does it need to be built back up? Does he need to find his courage again?
I think that it is. It is a confidence issue. It is a confidence and psychological issue with him. And I think that, as I mentioned, the big pivotal moment where we saw it change was that injury, and he realized that he wasn't invincible. I also, in that same vein, I think that not that we weren't appreciating how important it was to this offense, but potentially how important it is to his performance is his run game.
Yes.
And his run game wasn't just spectacular to watch. It wasn't just, making big plays and saving third downs and things like that. I think we underappreciated how important it was to diversifying the schemes of this offense. That without it, you're looking at, a good Austin Eckler and a good Brian Robinson, and a Brian Robinson who, granted, came out fiery, looked very strong running the ball, but neither of which are a Saquon Barkley caliber rusher. And
Yeah.
so they were relying on Jaden's unique ability to create opportunities to hand the ball off while also opening up the backfield when teams would pack the box and expect the run. It's as simple as, if you've got a 3-headed snake or a 2-headed snake, you're going to rather fight the 2-headed snake.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
And right now, the Commanders are a 2-pronged offense. They essentially have, since that Pittsburgh game, lost Jaden Daniels as a lethal rusher, not as a rusher, but as a lethal game-changing rusher on offense. And there is a ripple effect flowing through that entire unit. And, the behind the line of scrimmage passing, it brings me to the Cliff Kingsbury discussion, a guy that notably has had slumps as a head coach and as an offensive coordinator in the latter part of his season because teams just seem to figure him out. And I think I'm less concerned about whether Jaden has lost his lethal ability. Has Cliff lost his edge? I mean, is he giving Jaden the opportunity to sling the rock? Because I know Jaden doesn't want to throw screen passes every down. I know he doesn't. I know he knows he's got a cannon.
Yeah, but to the point about Cliff too, I got to go back to the Pittsburgh game on that third down when he's running that stupid gadget play, and there were plays that I went back and looked at some of the film. You had receiver. It looked like Bieniemy's offense on Thursday.
I know.
Receivers running against each other on crossing routes and everything, crowded, bunched up. How's your quarterback to make a decision? So, and that is the knock on Kingsbury, is the fact that once the time changes, once we get to daylight savings time, and maybe he didn't realize because they didn't have it in Arizona, but once you get to about daylight savings time, he starts falling back, and they just like they regress. We saw it in Arizona when they start out like fish grease back in 2021, and then towards the end they were probably one of the worst teams down the stretch that year, and they got blown out by the Rams in LA in the playoffs. But somehow they beat Dallas at Dallas. I don't know. That's Dallas. So,
and I mean, I had a buddy of mine send me a really interesting tweet. of Cliff Kingsbury, or discussing Cliff Kingsbury, and it was a guy that said, I don't blame Jaden Daniels at all, and a graphic of Cliff Kingsbury as a head coach in win-loss games by numbers. We'll skip out the Texas Tech and let's look just at the Cardinals. 2019 starts out 3-3-1. Rest of the year, 2-7. 2020 starts out the year 5-2. Rest of the year, 3-6. 2021, like you mentioned, a 7-0 start. Rest of the year, 3-5. Is this a systematic issue going back to comments that were made that Cliff Kingsbury is running a college offense? Is he not doing enough to create opportunities for Jaden to move the ball? Is he limiting Jaden's playmaking ability by not having the courage, as you mentioned, to give him those deep balls that we know he can make? Sure, they're not going to hit every time, but we've seen it when Terry can rip off a 60-yard chunk, when he can rip off a 40-yard chunk, how that not only changes the game, but lights a fire under this offense to know that they can move the rock, even in games where they have struggled in the red zone. And let's not even talk about the red zone struggles that we've seen, because that is game management on Cliff. There is no reason that you should be able to consistently get to the 20-yard line or closer and not be able to close the gap and get in the end zone. I think that, and I don't want to jump onto the culture bandwagon, like, let's just, like, it's Cliff's fault, it's Cliff's problem. But I think that Cliff Kingsbury needs to have an honest conversation with himself and say, what do I need to do to turn this offense around right now? This is not we've got some time to figure it out. We've, not to get ahead of ourselves, but we seem to have bypassed the throwaway rebuild year. And we know that this is a football team that can produce results. It is now on Cliff Kingsbury to put his offense in a position to produce those results.
And then you talk about this on the offensive side. While you talk about Cliff Kingsbury, remember Brian Johnson, who's your assistant head coach working on as the passing game coordinator. They started out 10-0 last season or something crazy like that, and the bottom fell out there. So you got two guys on that offensive side of the ball as coaches that are still working through some demons from their previous stops in the NFL. Let me ask you this. So the biggest probably debate outside of Jaden being hurt, and my buddy Paulie, he calls it, he was compromised. The fourth down call. I understand it. I'm not even mad about it, to be honest with you, because if you go back and look at those drives, and I know I'm in the minority when I say that, you look at these drives, I think Philadelphia was coming off a 60-some-odd yard drive or something like that.
You were looking at a...
That was a 76-yard drive, right?
Yep, it was.
So they came off an 11-play, 76-yard drive, and Washington, and to the point, too, on this was the second best offensive drive for Washington. They started catching fire.
It was the only time they seemed to have rhythm.
Exactly. And to my point, to the point I make, and some people say, well, you go up by one, you get the momentum in your hand. Is that really momentum? If I'm Philadelphia, that's a win for me. These guys have their best offensive production since the first quarter, and we're still limited into it's just a 1-point lead for us. Heck, let's go and run Saquon again. Oh, at that point, Kenneth Gainwell was gashing us on defense too. I think people forget that as well.
And Brown had finally started to get it going too. Yes. I mean, they were moving the ball through the passing game when AJ Brown was. Aside from that one, if we're going to talk defense, Mikey, that kid is a DAWG dog. He is a dog on defense. He probably, I don't know if you can outright say it, but he might be the best player on our defense right now. He has been making play after play after play after play, and I have been so impressed with what I've seen from him. But on the fourth down, I have two different schools of thought. My personal fan, I'm watching the game. I'm invested. We're sitting there. I got 20 guys around me. We're all throwing our hands up in the air. Why the hell are you not taking the points? You have the opportunity to take the lead and at least force a score. Not, and I agree with you, it wasn't going to feel like a momentum changer. It wasn't. But at that point, you are not banking on your defense, but you're betting against Philadelphia's offense and saying, you know what? If they screw up, we win this football game. You were banking on a Philadelphia error. And
Hoping.
so
You were hoping. Yep.
yeah, and that's all it was. It was hope at that point. The way that Philadelphia's offense was firing, it was a hope. And that is what you were doing. And in my mind, that decision made sense where you are hoping that maybe they fumble the ball. I mean, we saw what happened on Sunday to the Ravens, where, I mean, you even have Derrick Henry who went 539 snaps, I think it was, without a drop, and it just pops out. Sometimes, even to the greats, that just happens. And that's a gamble that, frankly, I would be willing to take. The more logical, informed side of me, and Logan Paulson did a great job of describing this last Friday on Take Command, was at that point in the game, and he had been in games like this, he'd been with Dan like this, like, you almost know it's over. And if you want the momentum on your side, you have got to get in the end zone. The way that Philadelphia's offense was moving, the way that they were gnawing at the bit on the sideline to get back out on that field and run it up against the Commanders. Yep. There is no way that they were not going to score. None. They were going to score if they got the football.
Preach.
The defense had been battered, basted, and baked in the fourth quarter. They needed to rest. They needed it. They had spent almost the entire fourth quarter on the field. And if you wanted any chance of this game going your way, it was going to have to be A, the defense, who was playing significantly better than the offense, and B, a rested defense that at least had a second to catch their breath before Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley started coming right at him.
Exactly.
And so the more measured and informed side of me, I think it was the right call. And I think that Dan Quinn knew that a field goal wasn't going to change momentum. It wasn't going to be enough. If they were going to win this football game, A, Jaden needed some confidence and some swagger to get back on the field if he had to. They had to get those points. They couldn't afford a 1-point lead and at least not punch them in the mouth, but maybe knock them on their heels a little bit through their first couple of plays so that they're not able to just run out and run all over you. And so, yeah, at the end of the day, I'm not upset about it. I do think it was the right call, and I think it's a testament to the kind of football coach that Dan Quinn is that he's not getting caught up in the moment. He's thinking about the bigger picture. He understands his guys. He understands the situation, and immediately at the end of the game, he went straight into the press conference and said, I'm just going to tell you about this. I'm not going to wait for you to ask me. I know that this was a play call that I, as a head coach, had to make. Here is why I made it, and I don't regret it. And I think I commend him for that kind of honesty, for that kind of integrity, and I'm not upset about the call in reflection.
Yeah. No, I watched I streamed the press conference after the game, and I watched it, and I said, I appreciate that answer from him. He just came out there. He didn't wait for John Keim to get the first question in or Nikki to come back and ask that question. He went, he owned it like a man, and that's something that's refreshing that we haven't seen before in Washington in a long time. You know, this would be a lecture. This would be a Professor Rivera lecture. This would be a Bill Callahan 30-minute dichotomy of why he went into the decision, and then Jay Gruden will probably brush it off. But, unfortunately, we lose that game 26-18. It's on to Dallas. It's Dallas week. The most hated, in my opinion, as a closer to younger fan, I hate the Eagles. I hate the Cowboys.
Oh, I hate
but
the
Eagles hate the strongest.
That's the one that I would have rather had.
Yeah, exactly. But this one, that old ugly star, comes here. They fall to the Houston Texans on a short week, 34-10. Cooper Rush still going to get the start for them, and their defense, they still got Micah Parsons out there. No Deron Bland. Diggs is struggling as well. Um, so from the top view, before we get into our preview position, just thoughts on the Dallas Cowboys this season so far, 3-7 on the register.
Man, it's an old ugly star and it's an old ugly football team. They do not have it together at all. To quote one Dak Prescott on the sidelines as shown on national TV, man, we're ass. Like, they are a bad football team. And you got Parsons trying to save face in his live streams, be like, no, we're good. We got no. This organization and Jerry's world is basically on fire right now, and they don't have a real sense of direction. And really, when you look at it, their Thanksgiving could not have come at a better time for the Washington Commanders. Right now in the NFL, if you need a bounce back game, you're not going to get a much easier matchup than the Dallas Cowboys. We've talked about Jaden. He needs to get that courage. Cliff needs to get that edge. This is a real opportunity for him to do so on the offensive end against a defense that, as you mentioned, is no slouch. And for this defense to bolster some confidence and maybe integrate Marshawn Lattimore against a quarterback and an offense that is sputtering on basically every facet of the game right now. So this is a big one for Washington. Not to classify it as, a must win because it doesn't have that vibe, but this is a must dominate. This is a must right the ship performance that we need to see out of the burgundy and gold.
4 out of the last 6 games of the season are against teams under 500. It starts today, and then you got Tennessee bye week, New Orleans as well coming up, Philadelphia again, Atlanta, and then Dallas to wrap it up.
And that's the road to 11. That's the road to 11.
That is the road.
And that is attainable.
11. It is. It can be obtained. It can be obtained here in the next 3 or 4 weeks, right? It can be right here. You get to 8, and then you got you some breathing room. But Dallas, we talk about them. We've had some last year ugly losses, 38-10 the last time they came to FedEx Field, 45-10 when you had Dolly Parton dancing, singing "They Are the Champions" and everything like that. This caused some people to move their fandom to Baltimore. Shout out to my boy Hawk. We really haven't beat this team in a game that matters. I'm going to say, let's go back to 2018, right?
I would have to.
At FedEx Field, I think that's so because, that one was Sam Howell. That really wasn't worth it. When we swept Dallas, they had Andy Dalton, and their season was terrible anyway after that because Dak had got hurt. So this is the first time, I think, since 2018 that we're playing for something. And really, we've got more to play for in this situation than the Cowboys do in this one. And, we look at it offensively, we got to wake up because they still got some major pieces on this defense, William. We look at Micah Parsons. He's getting healthy again. Who else do they have on this defense? They Diggs, who has struggled, but he can. I mean,
and it's a matter of when, not if. It's a matter of when, not if for Diggs. And much like how this is a correction game for the Commanders, this could be one where he could right the ship, and he's chasing a bag as well.
Yep, this is a stock market game. Overcorrection. It's the market needs to correct itself with the burgundy and gold. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about this matchup then. Let's talk about our offense against their defense. What do we have to do on offense to get right and to get back with this defense?
I think that Cliff has got to get back to basics. I want to see what worked in the first 4 weeks of the Commanders season that led to such dominant offensive performances. We mentioned he's lost his edge. Mm-hmm. I want to see him willing to take shots. I want to see him, even if it hurts, force the ball into Terry's hands. Terry McLaurin has got to get the football if Washington wants to win football games. I mean, you're looking at fourth highest receiving numbers for Terry McLaurin behind Austin Eckler, Zach Ertz, and John Bates. No disrespect, but you don't win football games if Terry McLaurin has 1 reception for 10 yards.
You ain't lying.
Cliff has got to get his edge back and be willing to make the aggressive and tenacious play calls with the talented quarterback that we got for him. And that's what it's got to be on offense. The run game, I really, even against the Eagles, who we mentioned have some of the biggest bodies in the league up front, and we're going to make it a challenge. I wasn't disheartened by what I saw from them. I think that a lot of the run game is still to some extent working. And I think that stepping up the passing game, maybe throwing the ball across the line of scrimmage a time or three would do us a favor and would maybe give the running backs, I know, bold, I don't know much. I'm no Cliff Kingsbury, but last time I checked, you want to be moving
He didn't know much either
away from the
last week.
sticks. Away from the sticks, Cliff. Let's let Jaden throw the ball 15 yards over the middle and see if our receivers can make a play. Granted, maybe we don't throw the ball to Noah Brown as much. But like, we've got guys that are ball players, and I need Cliff to get his edge back and look to be aggressive with his play calling against a Cowboys defense that I think is good enough for Jaden to respect them and good enough where a strong performance against that unit would give him his confidence back.
Yeah, I mean, you look at they added Malik Hooker. What was his last during the offseason? Malik Hooker been a pretty good safety in this league. Michael Kendricks, he came in because they needed linebacker help on there. Parsons, Diggs, those guys. That's who you got to work on. Now, don't be careless with the football. I'm all with you right here. You got to throw it. You can't rely on Austin Eckler coming out the backfield all the time because that is going to be a way to get him lit up. And if you take away his 89 yards, Jaden only throws for 100 yards last year.
Pitiful.
Yeah, and I'm with you with Terry. And if you can't get Terry open, where's Ben Sinnott at? Where's Ben Sinnott at?
We've thrown this back. We've thrown this back and forth. I think that they just don't have confidence in Sinnott. There must be something that they're seeing during the week where they just like fans love him. Like they think, but the lack of presence from him is alarming in a way where like they must really not trust that kid.
No. And I mean, and to your point, you always bring it up. I'm going to bring it up this time on offense. Jaden, Luke McCaffrey, I don't know what happened. Y'all need to go to Top Golf, maybe somewhere. Go to Starbucks in the morning and get you a cup of coffee. Y'all need to talk and just figure out where each other is because Luke looks like he's open on a lot of plays. Now, that might be his second or third, maybe fourth read on a play, but you've got to find Luke McCaffrey because he's open. This is an opportunity. You can make the legend Luke McCaffrey here against the Dallas Cowboys, especially for them older fans.
This could be the one.
Yes,
this could be the one.
No, you got to stop saying it because every time you say that, I'm the one pushing this envelope. I haven't pushed this envelope.
It's not the one.
Yeah, there you go.
Not.
Hey, give credit to Zach Ertz. I thought Zach Ertz played a good game last week. Get him involved.
After a struggle against Pittsburgh and in the past, he had really been a non-factor and a couple really ugly drops as well.
I've got a trivia question for you.
Lay it on me.
Because I didn't realize. I forgot this man is the defensive coordinator for the Cowboys. Who replaced Dan Quinn?
Oh boy. I was just talking to somebody about this today. Who is it?
Been there before.
Christ. We were just having this conversation today. Lay it on me.
Mike Zimmer.
Right.
Mike Zimmer. And I just, it's blown my mind how bad a Mike Zimmer, and with the talent of Dallas, how bad a Mike Zimmer-led defense is this year.
Yeah, I mean, a student of Quinn and a guy that, I mean, has had a lot of success around the league. I mean, at a variety of locations.
Cincinnati, he was there in Atlanta for a couple of years. I mean, this was a man who was dominant with the 3-4 defense, with the 4-3 defense. Early on, I think he was a defensive coordinator when they won a Super Bowl. But also, when Bill Parcells came there, he had to switch up and go to Bill's 34 defense, and he was still a defensive coordinator there, and they played pretty well for those first couple of years. They did some time under Marvin Lewis up there in Cincinnati, and then, of course, we know he was the Vikings head coach for several years before getting replaced by Kevin O'Connell.
Yeah.
So
And first in the NFC North on two different occasions,
yeah,
15-17, 19 second, 18
he took
second.
Case Keenum to the NFC Championship game.
And you don't see that every day.
No, no, you don't. No, you don't. Um, then he had Kirk family member. Look what happened there. But we won't talk too much about Kirk there. Yeah, I think if you play within your game here, um, establish the run. Don't in common sense. I think it's common sense play calling. Don't don't try to get a reaction out of anybody because those are the plays, those uh, low percentage, high risk plays that you go out there and throw, like the De'Ami Brown pass or something like Philadelphia did with that little end around flea flick or whatever they were doing. That stuff gets blown up and you can throw the momentum out. Also, offensively, get Brandon Coleman some help.
Yeah.
Get him some help. He has
Got
been
to.
the table off the and Wiley. I need you to get your butt together as well. Too. You got to get your crap. The tackles have played average to slightly above average. Last 2 weeks, they've been a revolving door. And I thought Scott played better against the Steelers than
Yeah,
Wiley did.
I did too. I
The
will
Eagles.
say, caveat, remember, we were down up until, I mean, what was it? We spoke on Wednesday. Up
Yeah,
until that Friday, all three were questionable.
yeah,
So talk about banged up and beaten. They need to have used this mini bye week to get themselves correct.
yeah. Get healthy, boys. That's the key thing right there. We got to get healthy. Hopefully, they took that mini bye week and got healthy. Let's take a look on when we're on defense. They're on offense. Cooper Rush. Last time he started against Washington, won 25-10. It was the debut of the all-black uniforms in Dallas. Remember, some stuff doesn't make sense. CD Lamb not having his best year, but he's still up there uh, in the league as one of those key targets. He can be a key target for a quarterback. Um, their offensive line still, they got the rookie left tackle in Guyton. The guard Smith is good there. Rico Dowdle is now the tailback because Zeke got suspended for eating too much apparently, and I think old boy who was with the Vikings, I can't think of his name now. Now I'm forgetting Vikings name. What's the running back's name?
For the
Oh,
Vikings?
yeah, last year he's on their practice squad. I cannot. Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook. He was
Yep,
breaking
Dalvin
on the
Cook.
sideline. I just had to pause for a second and think about that. He's not playing. So Rico Dowdle being a feature back for them. Um, I mean, just pressure. Just apply the pressure on defense all the time. Let
It's
Frank.
got to be. They've got to be in attack mode.
Yeah.
They've got to be in attack mode. And I think that, for as much grief as we've given this Commander secondary, it was really them leading the charge of this defensive development and almost, reignition the past 2 weeks. We need those boys up front to do some good work. And very fortunately for them, the Cowboys are going to be dealing with some injuries up front. Tyler Guyton's still questionable. Obviously, this is Wednesday, a lot of time until Sunday. But you've got Guyton questionable, Tyler Smith questionable at left guard, and Zach Martin questionable at right guard. So you know that even if cleared, these guys are going to be a little beat up, very similarly to the Commanders' offensive line on Thursday. They need to take advantage of that in the most respectful way possible. They need to get after these guys. And look, Cooper Rush, he's another one of those Commanders killers, like you said, right up there with Daniel Jones, where he'll put on the cape when he sees the burgundy and gold. But they need to attack him. This is not a guy that is comfortable being a starting quarterback. He's not overtly familiar with being the starting quarterback in Dallas, obviously, with Dak Prescott going out with season-ending injury. This will only be his second start of the year. They need to make him as uncomfortable as physically possible. We need sacks. We need numbers. I want pen to paper. I want the stat guys to be working their butts off trying to keep track of what the defense is doing to Cooper Rush in this offense, because they can't afford to, after rising to the level of their opponents for the past 2 weeks, they can't afford to have to step back. They need to keep moving in the right direction. And against a weak opponent, that means being dominant. That doesn't mean playing to their level again. We've seen them rise up to great teams in the Steelers and in the Eagles. They can't play to the Cowboys. They need to dominate the Cowboys and make a statement that Jaden has the opportunity to get himself correct. Because if
No,
not, I think that the heat's going to be on Jaden. The pressure is going to be on. And with the psychological issues that he seems to be battling, I don't think he needs that extra strain.
yeah, no doubt about that. Um, I need Dorrance Armstrong, Fowler to get there. And to your point about applying pressure, I always say this: you need to take these souls,
Mm-hmm.
turnovers, 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 turnovers.
I need
You need,
Chin to get one.
yep,
I need Chin to get one for sure. I would
I
love
need to
to
score.
see Mikey get one. Like, let's let all my dogs eat this weekend. Like, we need the ball in our hands. Jaden will only get more comfortable the more he plays in this league. But for him to play, the defense has got to get him the ball.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Let's take a look at this. So we know what we got to do. We know what we got to do. And I say this. I was talking to a couple of people. They said this is a trap game for. I said no, it's not a trap game
No
for us.
trap games.
Because we have not earned the right to consider any team a trap game, no matter who's on the opposite side of the field. This is a team that boat raced us last year, the year before last, and then beat us 59-6, 59-10 uh, on Sunday Night Football, where we thought Deron Payne, Jonathan Allen were about to part ways with us. But I'll start with you this time. Uh, Washington's final score in the victory.
38-14. I've had it. I've had it in my mind since I
Oh,
woke
damn.
up this morning. I had a
Woo!
premonition in my sleep. 38-14. I want a Panthers-esque revenge performance from this offense, getting the ball into the end zone. And the defense, sure, we'll give them two, but we're going to bury them this week. And I mean, like you said, we as part of the younger generation of fans care about the Eagles, but no rookie quarterback in Washington wants to lose their first game to the Cowboys.
No,
Nobody. Like
no.
Jaden wants this one, and I think he knows that how badly the organization wants this one on a Thanksgiving week. I mean, I'm expecting a big performance. 38-14. I'm locking it in.
Dallas back-to-back short weeks for them this week. So they Monday night, and then they got to go on Thanksgiving at home. Lord, who playing that? I'm not as bullish as you because it's Dallas, and I still am a damaged fan. With that being said, I think we get back into the realm of 30. I think Washington gets back to 30 points this week. I say 30-21, kind of like the Kansas City Buffalo game. And I think we have an electrifying play that puts us over the top. We had the lead in the second half. We're up 23-21, and then we blow the doors open, and Jaden runs down the sideline, and we can erase the RG3 Vikings run from our head. So
Oh
30 to
boy,
20.
wouldn't you love? I mean, that would be incredible to see.
Yeah. Oh, I'm looking forward to it. And be a happy day in my house because my wife, everybody knows, is a Cowboys fan. So, bro, I am looking forward
Yeah,
to.
somebody else is doing the dishes on Sunday night. That's for sure.
Oh, she always do the dishes because the dishwasher. It's the dishwasher. She's not the dishwasher. She loads them up, but I'm gonna get in trouble here. But William, as always, brother, it's a pleasure, and we'll be talking to you next Wednesday. We get ready for the Commanders. I'll be on the live stream on Sunday about 12:45. Get ready for a 1 p.m. kickoff against the Dallas Cowboys, live from Northwest Stadium. We're back on Fox as well, and then don't forget you can listen to the Take a Man podcast that William produces with Logan Paulson and the Craig Hoffman. But Craig's out of the country, I know he's off.
Craig's out with family right now. Out with
Yeah.
family right now.
Okay, so um, we'll see what there is, but we know Logan will be around, so you can follow him and listen to him as well. So appreciate you, William, and we keep that same damn energy. We outlast the bastards together. Till next time, Sanchez 405. Love, peace, and hail, and we are out of here.